Coming up next on NewsDepth, Israel has declared war over the Gaza Strip. A university developed a helmet for deaf and hard of hearing football players. We visit a Cleveland-based independent wrestling organization, and Margaret tells us about the monarch butterfly's long journey. NewsDepth is now. One day after the October 7th attack, Israel formally declared war against Hamas. Hello, I'm Gabriel Kramer, and thank you for joining us. On October 7th, militant organization Hamas attacked Israel from the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip is a small piece of land located on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. The majority of its population is Palestinian, and the area is often at the center of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict started because both countries were claiming rights to the same piece of land. Many people from diverse backgrounds lived there in the past. Over time, Jewish people and Arabic people strongly connected with the land. After World War II, Jewish people facing discrimination wanted a homeland in this area and established Israel in 1948. Palestinians already living there felt their homes were being taken, wanting their own state too. This led to ongoing conflicts and disagreements about land control. Today, Palestinian officials say dozens of buildings, including homes, schools, and medical institutions, have been flattened as a result of Israeli strikes on Gaza. Ben Wiedemann has more on the devastation in the region.
The Gaza City neighborhood, once known as El Rimel, the Sands, reduced to ashes. Its residents retrieve what they can, which isn't much. Residents in shock are asking why. I got married this year, says Yahya Lahuel. What did I do? What have we done? You destroyed an entire neighborhood. He says he never fired a rocket. Around 40% of the population of Gaza is under the age of 15, according to the CIA. The Information Ministry in Gaza reports that nearly 170 buildings have been destroyed and more than 12,000 residences damaged. Tens of thousands have fled their homes, seeking refuge in UN schools converted into shelters. An oven in this bakery in Gaza City is shut down, many of the shelves empty. Life here was already difficult, and now the future looks bleaker than ever. Gaza will take 5 years to raise its head after this, says Wahiba Sirsawi. And after 5 years, there will be 2 or 3 more wars. It's a catastrophe.
Thank you, Ben. Across the United States, millions of people have gathered to show support to the people caught in the middle of the conflict. Cities in Texas, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and even here in Ohio have held rallies in support of both Israel and Palestine. Reporter Tom Negevin is at a rally in New Jersey that has brought together a number of synagogues and people from all faiths to show solidarity with people in Israel. A synagogue is a building where a Jewish congregation meets for religious worship. Tom?
It's a river of blue and white passing through the streets of Livingston, thousands marching peacefully under the watchful eye of local police in support of Israel.
Now the priorities are clear. Free the captives and free Gaza and Israel from Hamas once and for all.
In the crowd, 89-year-old Mark Schonwetter, a Holocaust survivor.
It's beyond your imagination to see something and live through what I lived through, to see what happens now. And this makes me so upset.
More than 24 area synagogues and community organizations are represented here. People have come from all over the tri-state. They may not share the same faith, but they do share the same message.
It's important to us. Let Israel know that, you know, even thousands of miles away, they've got support.
I think it's fantastic that the community as a whole, Livingston and other communities, have come together with the Jewish community. I think that's wonderful, and we've stood with others, and I'm glad they're standing with us.
Thank you, Tom. Now let's move on to something a little more energetic. It is football season after all, and my favorite team, the Cleveland Browns, are doing pretty well. At least I think so. But I'm definitely up for tossing around the pigskin if you want to meet after school. No? All right, if you're too busy, that's fine. Well, Gallaudet University is known for its groundbreaking work for the deaf and hard of hearing. The school also has an active sports program, and now a new invention could be a game changer for the team's football players. Caroline Patrick has more.
Gallaudet Bison are once again paving the way.
To know that it actually happened and we made history, it's even better than I thought.
Gallaudet University and AT&T creating the first 5G connected football helmet for deaf and hard of hearing football players that changes the game.
The most important thing was it opened up access to communication. Important. Sometimes I can't get the attention of our quarterback.
Over the weekend, it was used for the first time in the win against the Hilbert College Hawks.
I think it's mind-blowing. Using this kind of technology is super advanced, especially when you're talking about using it in the game of football. So truly blown away, and I can see how it benefits us in a game time situation. So hats off to AT&T for making this happen.
The helmet allows coaching staff to send plays via a tablet to a digital display located in this visor.
With this helmet, you don't have to look to the sideline to try to see what the coach is saying. You can just focus on the huddle, get the play directly from the helmet.
Quarterback Brandon Washington sees the play and is able to give clear communication to his team.
Yes, I really think it can change the game for us, hard of hearing and deaf people, yes.
Unlimited possibilities for leveling the playing field. Honestly, it's something that I never could imagine kind of happen.
The university says it shouldn't go unnoticed that Gallaudet invented the modern-day huddle in 1894, a way to conceal hand signals from another deaf opponent.
Thank you, Caroline. Once you start being a football fan, you're a football fan for life. Like this World War II veteran from Ohio who recently turned 100 years old. The vet is a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan, will not hold him to it, and his only big wish for his big day is for the Bengals to win, something they haven't been able to do too often this season. But another veteran is hoping he can go one step farther to arrange for some of the players to meet this decorated centenarian. Madeline Otley has more.
They usually play pretty good defense.
Almost 2,000 miles away from the action, Gordon Hare honed in on a Bengals win.
I suffer every time they lose.
Gordon watches every game at his veterans' home in Georgetown, Ohio.
They tell me I'm 100 now.
You are 100.
Keeping himself busy with family, bingo, and Bengals.
I take it too seriously, but I like to see him win.
It's a simple pleasure for someone who, about 8 decades ago, was thrust into combat in World War II.
I have nightmares still. I had a few friends that were killed. That kind of got to me. I was always lucky, I guess.
Paul Brown, who shares a name with the Bengals founder, is a veteran too. When he heard about Gordon, he knew he had to meet him.
It took him 70 years to get his medals. Some of the stuff he had to do in World War II that, a lot of people wouldn't want to do.
France gave me their highest medal, the Legion of Honor. You become a knight, and you use the title Sir. But nobody ever called me sir.
To thank him for his service, Brown had an idea. Help him meet a player.
That would probably be a lifetime dream come true.
So he drew up this sign to hold up outside Paycor Stadium.
All we're wanting, is just for some of the guys to come see him.
Which is how we found him.
I've talked and wrote letters and everything. Never got no good feedback.
But he's not giving up hope.
We need to get Jamal Chase to sign your jersey.
Oh, sign my jersey.
Yeah.
Neither is Gordon.
Everybody's been real nice to me.
That's because you're a good man. A veteran is the largest family in the world. Whether it be a woman or a man, it's family. And we take care of everyone.
Thank you, Madeline. And that brings us to this week's poll. Which of Ohio's professional sports teams is your favorite? Jump over to our poll page to vote. If you're watching this online, you can click the box on the side of the screen to take you there. You can choose between the Cleveland Browns, the Cavaliers, or the Guardians, Cincinnati FC, the Bengals, or the Reds, or the Columbus Crew, or the Blue Jackets. Last week, we asked you which STEM field you would like to learn more about. 29% of you said you wanted to learn about careers in artificial intelligence. 25% of you said you were interested in space science. 19% of you said you were curious about jobs to do with math. Another 18% voted for engineering. And 9% of you said you wanted to learn about careers in computer science. Thank you for voting. This will help us find professionals in STEM for our career call-out segment. Okay, I have one more sports-related story I want to share with you. In this installment of Making It, we learn about Absolute Intense Wrestling, a Cleveland-based independent wrestling organization that produces live wrestling events across Northeast Ohio. And they even run a wrestling school. So let's check it out. But first and foremost, these are trained professionals, and you mustn't try this at home.
I'm John Thorne. This is Absolute Intense Wrestling. I got involved in wrestling in a very unconventional way. When I was 15 years old, I found a phone number for a local wrestling promoter in Cleveland named JT Lightning. He didn't know I was 15 years old. I called the number. I said, "Oh, I'd like to rent your wrestling ring." He said, "Sure, $300, and you got to put me on the show." Didn't ask any questions. Had no idea how old I was. He was just looking to make us $300. We put on a wrestling show completely untrained, of just high school people in a wrestling ring. JT Lightning, when he arrived, he did not turn around and leave. He understood what we were trying to do, so he worked with us. He set the ring up, we rented the gym, and we put on a show. And I've been involved in wrestling ever since that day.
This is my home promotion, AIW, and I'm the gold standard of the women's division. So when they bring in big name women, I always wrestle them. I'm always paid here. Every time I wrestle, I'm always paid, because at the end of the day, it's still a job. I'm still coming to work for whatever promotion that I'm working for.
I wanted to do wrestling. I wanted to present my version of independent wrestling. That's really all it was. I never thought of it as being a business. We wanted to do wrestling. We figured out how to do wrestling, and then it's really evolved from there. I mean, the school came along, I think, in like 2014, 2015. But now, since we started the wrestling school, it's become almost like a system, right? Like, so your graduation is you get a match on an AIW show. We're always looking to kind of add a little bit more to the show, right? Because I understand that, some of these people that we're putting on we're putting in matches, they are not household names because they're starting from scratch right here at the AIW Academy. So I like to try to find like a legend or a meet and greet person or something to where the average wrestling fan will come to see X-Pac or Abdul the Butcher or Larry Zbyszko or any one of these legends that we book. And then the idea is that gets them through the door, and then the wrestling gets them to come back again. We want Cleveland to be a destination for professional wrestling, and that's always our goal. Like, I do it because I want Cleveland independent wrestling to matter.
Special thanks to Ideastream producer Igal Kaufman for sharing that story with us. Other than football, what else comes to mind when you think about fall? Pumpkin spice, everything Halloween, the leaves changing, and monarch butterflies starting their yearly migration to the south. In this spot on Science, we learn with Margaret about migration and see the stages of metamorphosis up close. She speaks with Emmy Roskilly from the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District about the butterfly's long journey.
When you see monarch butterflies, you probably don't imagine them as very strong insects. I mean, they're pretty, but those wings are so flimsy, right? Wow, you might want to take a closer look because these guys make quite the journey during their cross-continent migration. To find out more, I invited Emmy Roskilly from the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District to the studio. I started by asking her to talk about the long journey these little butterflies take.
Well, right now in the fall, they're making their journey from Canada all the way down to Mexico, which is about 3,000 miles they're flying.
That's so far.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And Ohio is one of their big first pit stops coming from Mexico.
Yeah, so they're flying from Canada all the way over Lake Erie onto the shores of here in Cleveland, And so they need some time to rest and to refuel before they start up their journey again and make it over to Mexico.
And now those are big adult butterflies that are making the journey, but you brought in some great examples of what the butterflies are like before they get their wings.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off? So it starts as an egg, obviously.
Right, starts as an egg, and then it moves to various stages of caterpillars. So right here we have a smaller caterpillar.
He's pretty tiny.
Pretty tiny, although they're super tiny when they first emerge, like you can barely see them. This one right here is about ready to go. That's about at its 5th stage. They shed their skin. And then when they get about that big, they they crawl up high, and they turn into a J formation, which I could show you guys right here.
Oh, wow.
And they'll be that for about a day or so, and then they're going to turn, it's really cool, they're going to turn into a chrysalis.
Wow.
Meaning that the caterpillar will be no more, and it will look like this.
I didn't realize that they would be so shiny like that. It looks like a little Christmas ornament.
It does, it does. And I'm not sure of the relevance of the gold beading on it, but it looks pretty fancy, you know? And so they're like this for probably about 2 weeks or so, 10 to 14 days. And then and they're going through a major transformation. Again, the caterpillar is no longer, all those parts are being absorbed and turning into a butterfly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of the attention gets put on the big, beautiful butterflies, but there are these really important plants that you were telling me about.
Yeah, so the monarch butterflies can only lay their eggs on milkweed.
Wow.
Swamp milkweed, common milkweed, there's probably maybe 8 to 10 different varieties they can lay on. They tend to prefer common milkweed. And the reason they can lay on there is because when the caterpillars emerge, that's the only plant that they can eat to survive.
And is there a lot of milkweed around, or is it hard for them to figure out where to go?
It's hard for them to figure out where to go. So the monarch population has declined by about 80% in the past 20 years. And the main reason is because of loss of habitat, not finding the milkweed they need to lay their eggs.
You were telling me that we can play an important role in getting more milkweed.
Yeah. So we are doing a collection of common milkweed pods, and we have some here to show you today. In these pods are milkweed seeds, and in them they're very fuzzy too. And what this does is the seed right there with the fuzzy stuff on it called a coma, that takes the seed away to be planted somewhere else. So we are collecting those, and you can drop them off at collection points at various soil and water conservation districts across Ohio. And we take them and we give them to the Ohio Pollinator Habitat Initiative, who processes the seeds, takes all that fuzzy stuff off of there, and then they package them and they return those seeds and use them for different habitat.
Excellent.
All across Ohio.
I'm gonna have to go out to my garden and see what I can
Please
find.
do, yeah, and we definitely want people to pick them where they're permitted to pick them, whether it's your yard or you have permission from your neighbor. If you're going into a park system, ask the naturalist. We don't want people picking them where they shouldn't be picking them.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Margaret. I didn't know my garden can make such a big impact. Now in California, a community in Hollywood Hills is doing its part to help save endangered monarch butterflies. The species was on the brink of extinction in 2020, but their numbers are improving. Joy Benedict has more on what's being done to make sure they continue to take flight.
There's something in the air in the Hollywood Hills, as the blooming is a beacon for the butterfly.
1, 2, 3, something should be coming out of her. You saw the egg?
Oh my God, yeah. The monarch butterflies are laying eggs and flying high, but it's not by accident or even by nature. It's a plan by this community, as the monarch is on the endangered species list.
We have one little guy left.
Stephen Pine is raising his monarchs inside.
They're beautiful insects, and we care about, you know, beautiful little insects. We don't want them to go extinct.
He says when the Hollywood Knolls Garden Club started telling everyone about the need for milkweed to keep the butterflies alive, he got 2 small plants and ended up with 24 caterpillars.
It looked like an alien takeover at one point, when you had all of them just going to town on our plants. They literally chewed them to the nubs of the stalks.
With the temperatures rising, he brought his tiny plants and tiny caterpillars inside.
We had so many caterpillars, I had to go around the neighborhood and find random milkweed plants and steal leaves to keep our caterpillars fed.
They can smell milkweed for up to 2 miles away.
Charles Malky is the co-chair of the Garden Club and owns a plant product company. He handed out milkweed to his neighbors as it's the only plant the monarch caterpillars can eat.
It's shocking that they've hit the endangered species list last year. We all need to take that additional step to support their populations by dedicating some of our real estate to them.
Especially since this was once their habitat.
Our homes have taken away from their real estate.
But scientists say it's not construction killing this winged tiger. It's the herbicide that kills the milkweed and the pesticide that stops the flight.
How bad a shape are they in?
It's been really bad. We probably have only about 1% of the monarchs that we would have seen 40 years ago.
Dr. Jeff Holmquist is an ecologist at UCLA. He says we also can't rule out the effect of climate change.
As the climate changes, we may start to have more of these mismatches between plants and the insects that depend on them.
Butterflies migrate based on the temperature, but the warmth can be deceiving, allowing them to fly to their next location too soon.
So they've left their coastal overwintering habitat, gone inland to find milkweed, and oops, little or no milkweed there. So that's a problem.
Which gives this community just one more reason to plant it.
This here is a seed pod, and you can see the beautiful seeds.
And its beautiful friend, the orange and black banded fluttering staple of fall, which this community hopes will soar for generations to come.
Thank you, Joy. One of the things I really like to do to relax is gardening. No, I too sit in the garden. No, I like to cook with freshly grown herbs and vegetables from the garden. No, I like to look at butterflies in the garden. Well, at any rate, all those things are really relaxing. And we met with a group of students who found a way to do all of those things. The Garden Club at Berea Mid-Park Middle School invited us to see the garden they planted and happened to be this week's A+ award winners. Indy and Hannah told us the idea for a garden club started a few years ago when they were in 6th grade social studies with Mr. Pearl. You see, their school had a courtyard that really wasn't in great shape, and they wanted to do something to make the space a bit more usable. Indy took on the role of garden master and recruited a few of her classmates to spend time in the courtyard over this past summer recreating the space. The garden has even been designated as a certified schoolyard habitat. Lucas told us that they wanted to make the courtyard inviting for students, teachers, and butterflies. They planted a wide variety of herbs and vegetables that the family consumer science classes are using in their recipes. Things like peppers, basil, onions, and cabbages. I don't know about you, but that's making me pretty hungry. That's not all. Evelyn told us that they also planted a few native species to help pollinators and monarch butterflies as they migrate. Pollinators are insects like bees and butterflies that help spread pollen. Brooklyn explained that they planted black-eyed Susans and milkweed to attract the butterflies. A lot of the flowers they planted are perennials. A perennial is a plant that lives more than 2 years without needing to be replanted. The group told us that they were really proud of their work. They found it motivating to know that they will be leaving something behind as a legacy for their hard work. They're hoping that teachers and students find their courtyard to be a relaxing place to learn. Well, here at NewsDepth headquarters, we're pretty sure they are a success because when we were there, we saw 2 teachers relaxing and about 15 students eating lunch. The Garden Club also wanted to give a Titan shout out to Grace Church for donating all of the plants. This week's A+ award goes to the Garden Club at Berea Mid-Park Middle School. Keep up the great work. And now it's time to hear from you. For this week's write-in question, we want to hear your ideas for how you can help migrating butterflies in your community. Send us your answers using the inbox form online or via email. And if you're adding a drawing, we might be able to show it on the next episode. Just like a lot of you did last week, we asked you to tell us about an invasive species in your community. Let's see what you found out by opening up our inbox. Aaron from Meadowlawn Intermediate in Sandusky sent us this interpretation of the spotted lanternfly. I think the invasive species may need to go, but we still don't know which are bad and which are good. But the lanternfly will be starting to lay their eggs anytime soon. Maria from Rushwood Elementary School in Sagamore Hills also saw the spotted lanternfly. Dear NewsDepth, an invasive species in my community is the spotted lanternfly. It was found in 2020 in Jefferson County, Ohio, and was spotted in Cleveland in 2021. They can be destructive and have killed plants from feeding on their sap. Michael from Bath Elementary School in Akron sent us this drawing and said, "Dear NewsDepth, my invasive species is the American bittersweet. It is invasive because it chokes out wood plants. It has red bulbs on the tip of it. It is a vine type of plant and wraps around other plants. That is why my plant is invasive." Chloe from Giles Sweet Elementary in Fairview Park also sent a drawing. This is the Chinese praying mantis. It's invasive to Ohio. They kill plants. They come from China. They are very, very bad for us, but hard to tell if it is one or a different species. That makes this a bad invasive species. And Caden from Bexley City School in Bexley told us about an invasive fish. Dear NewsDepth, an invasive species in my community is a big-head carp. A big-head carp is invasive because they lay hundreds of thousands of eggs at a time, and then the native species quickly die off. They are also invasive because they cause damage when they lay their eggs. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. I can't wait to read next week's answers. Now it's time for everyone's favorite canine, Newshound. Let's see what he has for us in this week's petting zoo. Hey there, Newshound. Go fetch us a new story. Good catch, Newshound. So what did you find today? Okay, it's a story about runaway cows. To check out the full story, click the Petting Zoo thumbnail at the bottom of this episode page. Thanks, Newshound. Good work as always. I think we're out of time for today, but let's keep the conversation going because we always want to hear from you, and there are plenty of ways you can stay in touch with us. You can write to us. We're at 1375 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. Our zip code here is 44115. You can email us, newsdepth@ideastream.org, or you can tweet us. Our handle is @NewsDepthOhio. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gabriel Kramer, and we'll see you right back here next week.
NewsDepth is made possible by a grant from the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation.